Did you know that each person in our region uses an average of 99 gallons of water each day? Today, we're going to talk about how you can reduce your use and make every drop count as we tackle the important topic of water conservation. This is the Water Matters Podcast.
You're listening to the Water Matters Podcast, brought to you by the Southwest Florida Water Management District. We answer your most popular questions about the work we do and services we offer, including new projects, springs protection, water conservation efforts, and more. Learn about the many ways we serve the community and protect your water resources.
Welcome to this episode of the Water Matters Podcast. I'm your host, Michele Sager, and today we're talking about the ways you can save water around your home, both inside and out. And stick around because we'll share how you can use our free water use calculator to figure out ways to save water and money. Today, I'm joined by Katherine Munson, a lead communications coordinator at the district, who does a lot of work with water conservation. Thanks for joining us today, Kat.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before we start talking about tips, Kat, tell us a little bit about what you do exactly with water conservation here at the Water Management District.
Yeah, so a lot of what I do surrounding water conservation has to do with education and outreach. So that means that I work closely with our water supply staff here at the district, as well as with local utilities, communities, and schools to share information and resources that can then help residents save water.
And when we talk about saving water, why is that so important? Because it seems like Florida has a lot of water. I mean, we're surrounded by water on all three sides. So why is there a need to conserve?
Yes, so that is a great question. So the first thing to keep in mind is water is a limited resource. So that means regardless, it's important to conserve and to not be wasteful. And then in our region, the majority of our water supply comes from the aquifer or groundwater. And then we also receive water from surface water bodies such as rivers. So those two sources are considered traditional water supplies. And they're currently the cheapest form of water that we have available. But then you also have to remember that we share those resources with nature and wildlife. So water conservation really plays an important role in making sure that there's enough water to meet the needs of both humans and the environment without putting pressure on our natural resources.
So you mentioned traditional water supplies, but there's also alternative water supplies, such as using recycled water. Why aren't we seeing more of that?
Yeah, so we do use alternative water supplies throughout the district. So we have reusing wastewater and then also treating salt water through a desalination plant to create fresh water. So compared to those traditional water sources, the alternative water supplies just tend to take more time, money, and resources to develop. So it's not necessarily always an affordable option or one that's readily available.
That's interesting. So it sounds like those options are always being explored out there for future use. But right now, we're in a situation where we need to focus on conservation right now. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, great. All right, so let's talk about water use around the home. Where do we typically see the largest amount of water being used?
So I feel like for most people, when you ask that question, they think immediately of all the ways they use it every day inside to shower, brush their teeth, wash the dishes, things of that nature. But actually, the majority of water use is spent outside the home. So actually, more than 50% of water used by households is being used on our lawns and landscapes.
That's really interesting because I probably would have guessed bathroom first thing because you use so much water in the bathroom. But yeah, if you think about how much water you're putting on your lawn, that makes sense.
Yep.
So obviously, give us some tips on how we can save water around our yard.
Yeah, so one of the most important things you can do is to make sure you're always watering wisely. So if you have a permanent in-ground irrigation system, you want to make sure it's working properly. Oftentimes, you'll see sprinkler heads get nicked by lawn equipment or a car. Next thing you know, you've got water shooting into the air or it's spraying on your driveway instead of your lawn. So it's a good thing to go out there, manually turn on your system, and visually inspect to make sure you don't have any broken or misdirected sprinkler heads. The other thing is we do have year-round water conservation measures in our region. So those are typically referred to as water restrictions, and those designate the days and times that you're allowed to irrigate your landscape. So we're always reminding residents to know their watering days, and that's something you can find out either through your utility, through your city or county, or you can also visit the district's website, go to watermatters.org/restrictions, and learn more information there. And then once you know that information, you can double check that your controller is set to water on your designated day.
Okay, so let's say I go to the website, I find out that my days are Tuesdays and Thursdays. Does that mean I should always be watering on Tuesdays and Thursdays?
That's another great question, Michelle. So no, you do not have to water on your watering days. It's just when you're allowed to water. So if we've received enough rainfall during the week that you don't need supplemental irrigation, turn your system off. There's no need to pay for additional water when nature's done it for us.
That makes a lot of sense. And it saves people money.
Yes.
So with all this technology out there, is there anything that can help our irrigation systems run more efficiently?
There is. So there are what are called smart controllers or sensors that can actually monitor local weather and other site conditions in order to adjust your irrigation system to apply just the right amount of water at the right time. And this is especially great if you travel a lot or if you're only in Florida for a portion of the year, because those irrigation updates will happen automatically. And then also smart controllers, a lot of them, you can control them remotely, which is really nice.
So when we talk about the irrigation system, we're probably thinking about grass, but also the types of plants you choose can help save water, correct?
Yeah, so different plants have different water requirements, and not all plants are going to do well in Florida, which is really important for people to remember that move here from out of state. So when choosing plants for your landscape, you really want to look for ones that are drought tolerant or native species that match the site conditions. So if you're putting the right plant in the right place, they can often survive with little to no supplemental irrigation after they've been established.
Now, I know there are many other ways we use water outdoors. We're using garden hoses, we're washing our cars, we're watering our plants. Do you have any tips with those activities?
So really, no matter what you're doing, the key is always to only use what you need, right? So for example, if you're using a garden hose for outdoor watering or washing your car, you want to make sure you have a hose nozzle on it. So you want to make sure it's not just running water without you spraying it to be used. And then you also might consider installing a rain barrel. So there you can collect rainwater that can be used to water your garden or plant beds. So there's lots of different ways that you can save water outdoors.
Those sound like some really good ideas. Now let's go inside the home. I have to imagine, because you mentioned we use a lot of water inside, there's a lot of tips you can offer. So let's start with the bathroom, because obviously we know that there's a shower, the sink, the toilet. What tips do you have there?
Yeah, so one easy way to save water in the bathroom is simply to install WaterSense labeled fixtures. So that's going to be your shower head, your faucet, your toilet. So these are products that will automatically help you to use less water per minute than a traditional model just because of how they're designed. The other big recommendation for the bathroom is to regularly check your toilet for leaks. So sometimes the leaky toilet's obvious, you can hear it running, and then other times it's silent. So I always tell people it never hurts to do a simple leak detection test. So all you have to do, you start with a clean toilet, open the tank, put several food coloring drops in or leak detection tablets, and then wait 10 to 15 minutes. So you don't flush. And then at the end of those 10 to 15 minutes, look in the toilet bowl, and if you see color, it indicates you have a leak. Most of the time, it's just a worn out flapper, which is a really easy fix.
That's such an easy way, too. You don't have to be super handy. I think even I could handle that.
Yes.
That sounds like something even I could detect. So that's such a great tip, Kat. How about kitchens?
So similar to the bathroom, where we recommend installing those WaterSense label fixtures, you can also look for Energy Star labeled appliances. So those are going to be like your dishwashers. So again, those are just going to use water more efficiently from the start. And then if you're thinking just generally, you always want to be mindful that you're only using what you need. So for instance, making sure the water's turned off when you're soaping up your dishes, using the right cooking pan size, only running the dishwasher when it's full, even if it is Energy Star, those type of things.
And I bet you have some ways we can save water in the laundry room.
Yes, so there are water-saving tips for almost everything. So again, you want to look for those Energy Star labeled clothes washers, and then also only run full load. So if you just have a few items, try not to run a full cycle, and just do it either on a partial load if it has that option, or wait until you have a full load.
Wow, these are some great tips. Now let's talk about all the new residents who've moved to our state. Florida's climate makes it very different from many other places they are moving from. Lawns are different here, growing seasons, etc. And that can be confusing to a lot of people. If I'm someone who's just moved here and I'm so confused about what I should and shouldn't do around my home, is there a place I can get answers?
Yes, so it's actually perfect timing for that question. So the district just launched a new webpage called Water 101 for homeowners, and that's going to really provide a one-stop shop for tips on how you can help to protect and conserve our water resources. So everything we talked about today is included there, plus more, such as helpful videos for all our visual learners. So if you want to access that, it's watermatters.org/water101.
So I imagine there are videos on there that can help with inspecting the irrigation, correct, that you were talking about earlier.
Yes, so if you want to learn more about how to set your irrigation controller, maintenance tips, it's all going to be on there.
And speaking of that website, there's a super handy tool on there that's called the Water Use Calculator. Talk to us about that feature because it's pretty neat.
Yeah, so our water use calculator, it's a great way to learn more about how much water you may be using at your home. So it's often surprising how much water we use in our everyday lives. So the water use calculator allows you to add information that's specific to your household, and then you can actually see the gallons adding up on the right-hand side, showing each type of use, what's going into it, and then you can use that to make a plan for how you want to save water in the future.
Wow, that's a lot of great information. And thank you for sharing this with our audience and being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
As a reminder, you can get more information about everything we talked about today by visiting watermatters.org/water101. Now let's all find one new way we can save water. And thanks for listening to the Water Matters podcast.